Hey everybody, Aaron Cowan, Sage Dynamics, and this is the Noveske Space Invader. Pistol caliber carbines are very, very popular right now, and Noveske got in the game with the Noveske Space Invader, which is an AR-centric 9mm direct blowback pistol caliber carbine, or if you want to use just a colloquialism, submachine gun, even though by definition it's not a true submachine gun because it's not select fire. But it does do one thing that a lot of PCCs don't. It feeds from a submachine gun magazine, which I like a lot. Just getting right into it, it feeds from Colt SMG mag. Now in the past, using the Colt SMG, I owned one briefly quite a few years ago, and it was garbage because the magazines were garbage. So I was apprehensive about getting the Space Invader because it fed from the Colt SMG. I discovered the C-Proc/Duramag improved Colt SMG magazine. It's their own proprietary improvements on that particular magazine, and I heard good things about it. So that gave me the final push to go ahead and purchase the Noveske Space Invader, purchase some of those Duramags, and see if the Noveske would live up to the hype. For general features, what I'm getting is an 8.5-inch barrel that is 3-lug for suppressor. Why it's not 3-lug and threaded, I don't know. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, because all things being equal, if I'm going to put a suppressor on a firearm, I'd like the ability to thread it on and not rely on the less, or I should say the more vague nature of a 3-lug quick attach. I don't really care for that. I don't really need the need to rapidly put on and take off my suppressor, but that's what they went with. It comes with an ambi safety, ambi charging handle, and like I said, it feeds off the Colt pattern SMG magazine. The Space Invader is also kind of, the upper receiver is proprietarily set up to accept the Q collapsing brace, which, thanks, I hate it. I don't hate it because it's not a good brace. It's actually very, very sturdy for what it is. I hate it because it needs to be about another inch, inch and a half, even 2 inches longer, give me a little bit more length of pull, because this appears to be length designed for like a 12-year-old boy. I don't really care for that. It doesn't make it unshootable. It makes it feel like I kind of have to hug it like a long-lost relative in order to get the cheek weld that I need to run it the way that I want it. So if I was going to have any complaint right out of the box, this needs to be a little bit longer, and a cheek weld that isn't like a dull knife cutting into my face would be super cool. Just like anything else, the very first thing I'm going to do is a 500-round accelerated rate of fire, also known as the burn down. Most firearms can handle 500 rounds over their life without any problems, but if I do those 500 rounds as quickly as possible, that accelerated rate of fire, the heat, and the other violence it generates internally in the functionality of the firearm may show you a problem that you wouldn't necessarily see if you were shooting it at more of a pedestrian pace. So without further ado, here's our 500-round burn down. Burn down went well. The asterisk on that is I did have one stovepipe malfunction. I believe it was caused by the Colt pattern. The one magazine that the Noveske actually came with was a Colt. I imagine it's actually from Colt, but they say it's a Colt pattern SMG magazine. And after that one malfunction, kind of checked the magazine out, the rounds were kind of sticking on the follower. I just stopped using that magazine throughout the rest of the review process. But the burn down went well. I didn't have anything break on the gun. I didn't have any functionality issues. Really no issues at all for that 500 round accelerated fire, and I got it really, really hot. Now, it comes 3-lug ready for suppressor, so of course suppressing it is something I'm going to do. Sometimes these direct blowback 9mm can behave strangely when suppressed. Well, I tried it with a couple of different suppressors and happy to report I didn't experience any of those problems. So the direct blowback continues to function even though I'm throwing a suppressor on it. And like I mentioned, some of them don't like to be suppressed, or they're particular to one specific type or diameter or length of suppressor. I wish they had gone with a B&T style barrel or the HK style barrel where you get 3-lug and direct thread. I would like to see accuracy and performance overall, being able to direct thread a suppressor on just using a 3-lug. Now that being said, 8.5 inches 9mm is a Noveske barrel. Is it going to be accurate? Now, most people don't expect a whole lot of accuracy out of PCC. It should at least be accurate at 0 distance. So if I'm going to zero it at 25, which is where most people zero their PCCs at, or you're going to zero it at 50. So let's take a look at a 5-round group fired at the 0 distance of 25 meters. These things are accurate, but let's see how it hangs at 50 meters. So I went ahead and increased the distance, because sometimes, you know, PCCs, guys will show you what they do at 25, and that's cool, but I'm going to shoot it further than that, and I want to know what its accuracy is like on anything that's not just steel making noise. So I went ahead and put a 5-round group out at 50 meters. I think that's very, very respectable performance for an 8.5 inch 9mm barrel shooting a 124 grain gecko. Using the Space Invader for just my general practice and just general range time over the 2,000 round review process, fired a bunch of different types of ammunition, 115, 124, 124 plus P, suppressed, unsuppressed, did some low light with it. Just generally got a really good feel for it. It is a very compact design. This thing is going to be super portable if it's something that you want to use for a truck gun or something like that. It compacts down to just this, which you could theoretically shoot it like that, and it's only slightly less comfortable than if you shoot it in its actually fully extended position, because you're not gaining a whole lot there. And if I had a serious complaint, that would be it. I do not like the stock. I think if the stock was another, like I said, inch and a half of length of pull, I would like it a lot more. It's not necessarily uncomfortable at the shoulder, but it's pretty uncomfortable at the face, especially if you're, you know, shooting for more than 5 or 6 minutes or 1 or 2 magazines. The magazine release I do like a lot. I've got a traditional AR position magazine release, but I've also got a paddle down here, which is super useful. So similar to an HK MP5 in the fact that I've got 2 ways to approach getting the magazine out of the gun based on what I'm doing. It doesn't have true ambi control as far as bolt release or magazine release goes, unless you consider the paddle, which could be very easily manipulated left versus right hand. Some people don't like that type of reload, and that's cool. I'm fine with it. It's not a bad place. My hand has to go there anyway to change magazines, so I don't feel like it's necessarily going to slow me down. And if you don't like it and you're right-handed anyway, you've still got a traditional button release on the right side of the receiver. Another significant downfall or drawback, if you will, to the Space Invader is the price. It is pricey. You are paying for some somewhat unique features. You are also paying for a Noveske barrel, which have always been known to be high quality barrels. So the price doesn't super surprise me, but it is a little cringeworthy when I have 2,000 rounds on this, and the only other proprietary things I'm really seeing are the way they've done the upper receiver and in some aspects of the lower receiver as far as the Q stock attachment goes. Is it worth the money? I don't know. I do like the fact that it does have an SMG pedigree. It's a stagger fed magazine for an alternate fed chamber, and even though it is direct blowback, and even though it is this small and this light, the recoil is not ridiculous. It isn't more than what I would have expected it to be. It isn't necessarily less either. If for something that doesn't really have a niche role, what are you going to use it for? Is it going to be a home defense gun? Is it going to be a truck gun? Is it going to be something you're going to use in competition? Those are going to kind of help you justify if it's going to be worth what it costs. Me personally, it's something I'm honestly probably eventually going to part ways with, because it doesn't do anything well enough versus what I already have to fill this category. That doesn't mean it's not a good gun. There's a lot of quality in it. The construction is great, performance is great, and beside that one stovepipe I had during the burn down, which I'm almost 100% sure was magazine related, I experienced no other issues with it and it remained accurate and reliable from first to last round, except for that one. That's my one asterisk. So 1,999 rounds of thumbs up, and one of them was kind of like, that was probably the mag, but we don't really know. But it'd be very hard for me just to talk to you guys with a straight face and say it's absolutely worth the money. I understand, just because of what I do and the behind the scenes stuff that I see, that sometimes people don't understand why something costs what it costs because they don't know what goes into it. In this situation, it's a very similar situation. However, it doesn't have a proprietary mag. There's no R&D costs there. Doing the receiver the way that the upper receiver the way that they did it isn't going to be a ridiculous amount of money to make that happen. They're using a third-party brace slash stock. It's got a SIG profile trigger, and it's got Magpul furniture, and it's got well, the rail they were already making. I mean, it's gray, or you can get it in bazooka green, so Cerakote adds a little bit of cost to it. And then of course the Noveske barrels, which like I said have always been known for high quality, but they've also always been known for, they're a little bit more expensive, so you have to be prepared to pay Noveske prices. Yeah, I mean, if you really want one, just be prepared to pay for it. Do I think it's overpriced? Yeah. That doesn't make me right. It just, my opinion is, I'm not seeing it. I'm not. I think it's a great little gun. I think it's fun to shoot. I think using the right magazines, it's very, very reliable. It suppresses well. It shoots great. But I've got other guns that do that too, and they were half the cost. So I kind of feel like I'm paying a little bit for the logo. And I hate to say that because I love Noveske, but I just don't get it. If you're in the market for a PCC / SMG, depending on what terminology you use, that works off the Colt pattern magazines, and if you're going to do that, definitely get the Duramags. If you're going to buy this gun or you're going to get a Colt SMG, get the Duramag C Products improved SMG pattern magazine. But if you're interested in this thing, like, it's good. It performs great. It does everything I'd want it to do. My big apprehension with it is I just can't see where the money is at. And that bothers me a little bit because I don't like recommending things to people that are Gucci just for the sake of being Gucci. And usually what determines Gucci these days is either what color it is, what words they invented to describe the parts they put in it, or what the pedigree is. So if you really want one, you're gonna spend the money, and that's okay if you can afford it, and you're gonna get a good firearm. But it's not something I would necessarily recommend to somebody that it's like, hey, it costs this much because it's so much better than everything else out there, because it's not. It meets and exceeds the standard, but so do some other firearms that are out there in this category. So it really comes down to how Noveske are you. And if you're super Noveske, then you obviously have to have one. If you don't really care who makes it, you just want something reliable and high quality, you'd probably end up passing on the Space Invader. I'm Eric Count with Sage Dynamics. Train accordingly.